So I want to play a little game with you. So what do Mike Brown, Mac Brown, and Gary Kubiak all have in common? What do they have in common? They got fired. They've all been fired, and they're all big names. Mike Brown was fired from the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's actually been fired twice from the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's our getting fired overachiever. Mac Brown's been fired from University of Texas Longhorns. As an Aggie, that doesn't really do anything for my heart. And Gary Kubiak has been fired from the Houston Texans, our beloved Houston Texans, right? And we're going to come back to Gary a little bit later because there's a little bit in that story. But they've all been fired. And I know you're sitting here thinking, well, big deal. They've been fired, but I'm not a coach. I'm a project manager. I'm an associate. I'm a leader in my organization. Well, you may think that you're not a coach, but let's just see. So there are some strategies that we want to talk about that we want to use as coaches. So let's look at our game plan. What are we going to talk about this afternoon? We're going to cover 8 leadership strategies that I've utilized in my own career and that I've researched and found have given other leaders excellent results. It's not just about my own experience. It's about the experience that I gather from those that I come in contact with, okay? We want to look at ways to build and maintain team dynamics because it's one thing to have an immaculate Gantt chart, right? But it's another thing to have those team dynamics to the point where your team can execute what you have put your hard work into creating on that Gantt chart, okay? So number 1, you want to lead by example. So leading by example, I have an illustration here that says that a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. Because it's not enough for a leader to tell the people on their team what they should be doing. Leaders and effective leaders need to demonstrate what their team should be doing. How many of you have to put together the agenda for your staff meetings? How many of you are responsible for the agenda? A few of you? Okay. So when you put that agenda together and you establish the start time for that meeting, whose responsibility is it first and foremost to be on time for that meeting? The person who's conducting the meeting. There's nothing worse than having people show up for a meeting and the person leading the meeting's late. Okay? So we can't expect things from our team that we won't ourselves do. This comes to our status reporting. This comes to anything that we are requiring our team to do. Number 2, you want to sneeze on your team. Now, I love when I'm giving this talk in the winter because everybody starts going, ugh. Okay, so we're not as quite as worried about germs and spreading germs right now, but I'm not talking about spreading viruses. I'm talking about spreading your attitude. Your attitude is contagious. And being positive in a negative situation isn't naive, it's leadership. If you've just been told in an upper management meeting about something that's to the detriment of your team, you then owe it to your team to remain positive in how you communicate that information and how much of that information you communicate if you know it's going to be demoralizing to your team. Number 8, so our final strategy is you want to move from tolerance to appreciation. People who are different, I guess, and what is the norm, really? I mean, one of the things, I'm looking around this room and I'm seeing an incredible amount of cultural and gender diversity right here in this room, and that is amazing. But we add to that the fact that we are now, as project managers and as leaders, we're in a situation where we could be leading 4 different generations. You guys realize that? Not all of them have cool names like millennials. That's a really cool name. Or Gen Xers. But as they're doing the research, they're realizing that we're leading 4 different generations. We've got some baby boomers who have great knowledge, and that's why knowledge management is so important. But we don't want to just tolerate our seasoned employees, right? We want to appreciate them. You don't have a draft. You didn't get to pick who you wanted. We don't have a draft. And regardless of whether your team is full of J.J. Watts or J.J. Knotts, you're going to need to be able to lead your team to victory.